Gentlemen, and special thanks for one of our county commissioners being out here today to care enough to be here with us. Thank you, Robert Head, sir. And what we're going to do now is we're going to have the candidates from left to right. We're going to do 5 minutes of introduction, basically their campaign elevator pitch, if you will, for Mills County, for our county residents. So let me go ahead and pass around the microphone. Well, you are first.
See if I need it.
Okay.
So hello, my name's William Abel, and I'm running for Congress in the 31st District. So there's a lot of problems in this country today. We got one of the big things, especially out here, because it's a smaller community, are the data centers. Data centers eat up a lot of water. They take up a lot of resources we have, put a major strain on the energy grid. There's some things we can do to kind of help ease that problem, but we need to go ahead and think about it, and we need to be active in the local government and everything so that they don't destroy the small communities. One of the things we can do is we can look at our energy sources. Now, I know out this way they have a bunch of windmill farms, and they got a bunch of the solar panels they're trying to bring in, and I'll tell you right now, those are inefficient. They put about 20% of their power input actually is usable, 30% for the windmills. But then you have the impacts of the land that they're on, the environmental factors, and the factors with the wildlife in the area. Also, when windmill goes ahead and springs a leak, they use oil to go ahead and lubricate the moving parts on them. So when they go ahead and break, it causes a major mess. Some of the things we can look into is coal. Coal puts out about 50% energy output. You have natural gas, which puts out about roughly 60%. Geothermal, which puts out 75%, and nuclear, which is actually clean and efficient, putting out 90% of the power output. That's one thing, that's one aspect of it. We can go ahead and try and help and take care of. We can also go ahead and look at the water situation. So I remember in 2023 when we had the 100+ days of 100+ weather and everybody was under water restrictions, the East Coast had an abundance of water. Why haven't we ever looked at putting a water pipeline from the East Coast to the West Coast, having a pipeline stop in each state in one central location, and then the state being responsible to get it out to the counties. But that way, when we have a drought like we did in 23, we can go ahead and get some water from one of these states on the East Coast, north, central north, or out there on the West Coast, and get the water to where it's needed for the droughts. So that's with that. Taxes. I'd love it if we can go ahead and get rid of income taxes altogether, but that's not helping us right now, because that's going to be something that happens, if it happens, further down the road. Because you got to, first of all, get people elected that support that, and then you got to go ahead and make sure it passes the House, the Senate, and obviously the President at the time. So one thing we can do in the short term is we can go ahead and at least take it down to a 10% flat tax, take away deductions, write-offs. It streamlines everything. And unlike the no taxes on overtime, where they still tax your overtime, and at the end of the year, you can go ahead and write off so many. Of course, the people who qualify for that probably can't afford an accountant, don't know how to do it, and so they end up just paying the taxes anyways. 10% flat tax, they keep more of their overtime pay, they keep more of their pay every month, and that puts more money into the pockets of the consumer, and it will help boost the economy. And then wasteful spending, that's another big one for me. Because we spend about $13.5 billion a year on the United Nations, making up 24 to 28% of their entire budget, but yet they failed to do anything. Their primary mission is to stop and prevent wars. They've not done that since their inception. They failed to condemn Russia for invading Ukraine. They failed to condemn Hamas for invading Israel. But what they have condemned is the United States for overturning Roe v. Wade. They've condemned the United States for our use of natural gas. They condemned the United States for not welcoming illegal immigrants into this country with open arms. So as far as I see it, they're completely useless. We're giving them about 28% of their entire budget. It's about time we look at getting out of them, getting out of the United Nations, a lot like we got out of the WHO. And while we're on it, I think we also need to go ahead and get rid of the WEF and stop funding that, because we all know what a disaster that is. Department of Education, so this year they just passed a budget for them of $80 billion. That's not including the money we give them to go out and get student loans and everything, which is about another $200 billion that they get. However, since its inception in 1980, it has failed to do anything to improve education. If anything, it's gotten 10 times, if not more, worse than what we were prior to that. And when doing my research on the Department of Education, their entire mission statement is to do research and make improvements to education. They felt that, and they don't need $80 billion to do that. I say get rid of the Department of Education on the federal level, take it back to the states, because what we need here in Texas to improve our education is a lot different than what you need in Oklahoma, California, Georgia, Florida, Maine, or any other state. Let the states go ahead and take that money and use it and put it forward towards what they need in that state. The IRS, their budget's actually higher than the UN's, and once I looked at it, I kind of realized why they audit everybody. I myself, once I retired from the Army, got audited twice in a 6-month period. So I guess they were a little low on their budget. They need more money to make sure they got their paychecks. And realistically, we go to a 10% flat tax. We can go ahead and get rid of a majority of the IRS, if not completely abolish it. And the ATF needs to be abolished. Second Amendment is clear as day. It states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. So the states needing the military in order to keep its sovereignty. It says the right of the people, not the right of the militia, not the right of the state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Unfortunately, we have a bunch of politicians that they don't understand this concept, and they want to enact red flag laws. And they say, oh, well, it's not the Democrats' red flag laws, it's the Republican red flag law, so it's better. It's like, no, a red flag law is infringing upon the Second Amendment, and I wholeheartedly stand against that. I grew up, my father was in the Army, he was on the Army shooting team, so I had multiple rifles and pistols sitting all over my house my entire childhood. I never once thought about grabbing one and going out shooting up any place. And while we're on that subject, we can talk about the school shootings, because it's normal for a parent to go ahead and worry about their kid's school getting shot up. But let's look at the underlying reasons. I know in the 90s, when I was going to high school, just about, I'd say 94% of the kids there all got diagnosed with ADHD. It was when they were doing that massive diagnosis of ADHD, and they were put on Ritalin and Prozac.
Yep.
Well, when you look at the side effects of Ritalin and Prozac, severe depression, homicidal tendencies and suicidal tendencies. And we wonder why they're shooting up the schools. But yet the pharmaceutical companies aren't held accountable for nothing. And why? Because they go ahead and they run most of the medical schools, they run the medical boards, and they go ahead and donate $16 million every election cycle to these quote-unquote representatives for we the people. They don't represent us. They represent their donors. And I don't know how much time I got left, but I'm going to jump on one more big issue for me, and that's the COVID vaccine mandate, or any vaccine mandate, because it almost killed my wife. She had liver disease, and she was sitting at a MEL score of 18. Scores range from 6 to 40. The higher the number, worse off you are. And she was at an 18. Her doctor gave her an ultimatum, said you either take the COVID vaccine or we're taking you off the transplant list and putting you on hospice care. So I reached out to all our representatives. I reached out to Carter, I've reached out to Cornyn, I've reached out to Cruz, I've reached out to Abbott. 2 weeks straight, calling and emailing every day, waiting for any kind of response. Never got any response at all. So she reluctantly got the COVID shots, and her score jumped from an 18 to a 32. It got so bad I was taking her into the ER weekly, if not multiple times a week. Luckily, the doctor who gave her that ultimatum got fired. My wife got a new doctor. He moved her up on the transplant list, and she got the transplant in February 19th of 22. So that's my time. William Abel, Randy William Abel, thank you very much. There.